Welcome here to Sweden.
Thank you so much, Martin.
Tell us what we have been doing today.
Today we've been bearing witness with the Save movement outside a slaughterhouse or a killing factory where animals are having their throats being slit and heads chopped off.
Yeah, so we had 33 activists today, including 3 children that came along to bear witness, as Lucas said. So we gathered outside the slaughterhouse in various locations with signs and tried to basically see the trucks coming in, stop them if we could, which wasn't too successful because there were police and security guards, etc. But just creating a presence here for the animals, letting the industry know that people do care about animals and they care enough to take action. We did film as much as we could and shared that on social media. And then at the end of the vigil, we we listened to the words of the Liberation song, a very beautiful song that was played. Some people were singing, and we all had roses and we put them in a heart shape on the fence of the killing factory. So that was just something quite symbolic to let the animals know that we're here for them, we remember them, and to let the police and the industry know that, again, people are willing to take action for animals and we're not going to forget these victims. What we did see, at one point there was a truck full of cows. They seemed to be dairy cows. They were very closely packed in together. I could just see a little bit, they were quite high up. There was covered in feces, basically. There was a lot of feces coming out of where the windows or the gaps in the trucks are, and they were just looking out. They're always sad, they're always scared, they're always very stressed. They don't know exactly what's going on, but they are aware that something bad is happening. They don't want to be there. So whether it's this slaughterhouse and these trucks or anywhere else we've been around the world, it's the same thing over and over.
Yeah, we're often seeing animals that are wounded, as you said, covered in their own feces, crammed in, they have scratches, some of them are lame, some of them are down, that is, they can't physically stand up. The same story all over the world that is happening to billions of innocent animal victims.
And this is part of a grand tour you're doing. You've been on the road since April, haven't you?
Since May, that's right, yeah. So we're on an international animal rights activism tour. Last year we toured in the US, UK and Ireland, and this year we've taken our tours to Canada and Europe. We're doing 15 countries in Europe, and we have 5 remaining after Sweden. And yeah, we're basically encouraging vegans to take more of an active role and get involved in animal rights activism. So we give an activism workshop the night we arrive in a new country generally, and we will talk about the 3 leading grassroots animal rights organisations worldwide, in Anonymous for the Voiceless, the Save movement and Direct Action Everywhere. And we also arrange, together with local organisers, actions that activists who attend the workshop can attend in the days following.
Yeah, and we also hosted a Dominion film screening, and that's very important, obviously for non-vegans to see, but also for vegans to see as well, because it really lights a fire inside of you. You know, a lot of people are very sad when they watch that, and that's a normal reaction to have, of course, but we also want people to be angry about it, angry enough to say, well, it's not enough just to be vegan myself, it's time that I get involved in animal rights activism. I need to do more to help stop this atrocities. So basically our tagline for many years has been, going vegan is not the most we can do, it's the least we can do. And what we mean by that is the next step is to become active for animals, is to join the animal rights movement. So that's why we do these tours, to help bring vegans that have been watching us for many years on social media, bring them into the animal rights scene and introduce them into these groups and basically get active with us for animals in their city.
Yeah, so you have seen a lot of movements in a lot of countries. Can you tell us a bit about similarities or differences between Sweden and other places?
Sure. So, I mean, I think there are more similarities by and large between the movements in respective countries than there are differences. In terms of plant-based products in the marketplace here in Sweden, I think Sweden is quite innovative compared to perhaps some other countries that we've been to, which is wonderful in terms of making plant-based foods more accessible and more widely available and more convenient for people, because of course convenience is one of the main objections that people have to transitioning to a vegan diet and lifestyle.
We've seen a growth in the Anonymous for the Voiceless group and the Save movement over the last 3 years. That's really reached a level where people are very accepting of those forms of activism, and now we're seeing this shift into more direct action. And of course DXC, or Direct Action Everywhere, has been doing this for many years, but they are growing bring. And so, for example, last year on our tours in, as Lucas said, the United States and also in
UK
the
and
UK
Ireland.
and Ireland, it was actually quite difficult to get direct action groups to organise events, either because there weren't DXE groups or there weren't people willing to take part and do things. This year we have a direct action event in every single city that we've visited. So just in 12 months we've noticed a huge difference in people being willing and interested to join direct action. And in fact, not only that, but the numbers of people who join are much larger than what we had last year. Some of the groups that we've done direct action with are as big as the Cube groups.
With Anonymous for the Voiceless, which is an amazing thing to think about, given that that is the form of street activism that tends to attract first-time activists because it seems the most accessible and approachable and the least confrontational, if you like. And to now have numbers attending disruptions that are equal to those attending the Cube of Truth demonstrations,
that says a lot.
It says a lot in terms of where the movement has progressed in just a short 12-month period.
I think activism has been normalised now, but also direct action is becoming more normalised. And I think Meet the Victims that originated in Australia and now has spread internationally, I think that's really helped normalise taking direct action. So we need all of it, and all of it is helping build this momentum around non-violent direct action for animal rights.
Yeah, we're sitting here in a restaurant after the vigil, having enjoyed a nice vegan meal and discussing these very topics, strategy. And you said something about you think more direct actions and more radical actions is the next step to go.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
So as we were talking about, Martin, we're all reading This Is an Uprising at the moment by Mark and Paul Engel, and we're learning about social justice movements in history and what tactics and strategies have been successful and effective, and learning from those. So in particular we're learning a lot from the civil rights movement and also the Serbian Revolution when they ousted President Slobodan Milosevic, the butcher of the Balkans as he was known, and using the power of momentum-driven organising. And it's just a fascinating topic and that we can all need to read up on, learn more about and share because knowledge is power. And
basically these movements that if we look at all social justice movements, that it took a variety of different types of activism, but ultimately it was sustained non-violent direct action that helped achieve those rights or whatever their goal was. So outreach is fantastic and needed. Vigils are fantastic and needed. That's all needed. And yet other groups were not successful no matter how much outreach they did or how good the outreaches were. It was ultimately taking non-violent direct action. And so for the animal rights movement to ultimately be successful by seeing a Bill of Animal Rights enacted into legislation and to see animal liberation, we need to take non-violent direct action. We're not reinventing the wheel. We don't have to come up with anything new and amazing. We just have to learn from what has worked in history and apply that to animal rights. It's actually a very simple formula, if you like. We're quite privileged that we have this knowledge and we can look back throughout history and say, this worked, this is how they did it. Okay, let's apply that to animal rights. And so I think we're very excited to take part in the Animal Rebellion on the 7th of October in London for 2 weeks, because I think this is one of the first times that it's going to be such a big, open, public event. They're hoping to have 10,000 advocates join the rebellion. So I think they're applying a lot of what we're talking about, a lot of what we've read, a lot of what has happened throughout history to the animal rights movement. So we're definitely seeing a shift in where things are going, and we're seeing, the Save movement also take more of a direct action role. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, and also being inspired by other movements like Extinction Rebellion, for example, experienced an amazing success in such a short period of time. I believe they only came onto the scene with their first big actions earlier this year, and yet Roger Hallam was saying they now have over 100,000 people on their mailing list. That's a lot of people being reached in such a short period of time and getting on board supporting disruption and civil disobedience and non-violent direct action for climate change. And of course we can't address the climate emergency without addressing the animal emergency, hence Animal Rebellion.
And thank you, That Vegan Couple, for being here, for spreading the word, for your inspiration.
Thank you so much,
It's
Martin.
lovely
Thank
to
you
be
for all
here.
the wonderful work that you and other Swedish activists are doing right here in Sweden. And it's an honour to be part of this global movement fighting for animal rights together. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.